Good morning, John. Here's your machine, the Breville Oracle Touch in black stainless. As you saw in the photos last night, this is basically a new-ish machine that's been used very lightly. It's in great cosmetic condition, so it's got only a couple of scratches. The first is here on the front. It's hard to see actually from standing height. And the other is here also on the front, but near the cup tray. Very, very light. The one tip does have some cleaning marks on it, meaning someone has probably cleaned it a bit too aggressively, so it does have some streaks on it, but I believe they include another one in the box anyway, so you can replace that if you want. But that's not something I would worry about. The machine is obviously a fully functional machine, no issues at all. In this video I'll be testing everything, grinding, brewing and steaming, making my morning latte on it. Oh, I should say cappuccino. So the machine has been on for about 10 minutes. It's nice and warm. The top area is warm, the portafilter is warm. My cup isn't warm though. I like to warm it up though with running a blank shot. So I'd run about 20 seconds of hot water. Now we do warm up the portafilter itself and the cup. It's a bit murky from last night when I made a coffee. Okay, that looks better. Yeah, that should be enough. I'm gonna put that on top and resume making the coffee. So it's always important to warm up your drinks. That's gonna keep your espresso nice and hot, reduce any changes in taste, and yeah, probably keep the entire drink warm. I know espresso is such a small part of the entire drink, but if the espresso is hot, the cup is hot, and the milk is hot, that's a nice way to ensure that you have a hot drink at the end. So once we've warmed up things, we want to get the portafilter out and dry it before grinding. The grinder and tamper, it's automated, right? So we want it to be as consistent as possible. If there's a bit of moisture in there, it won't tamp nicely just because it depends on that friction in the basket. So we want it to be dry before we grind. I'm going to be using a scale to measure the inputs and outputs that go into the machine. You don't have to, it's an automatic machine. At the end of the day, it's made to be easy to use, and it is. But I'm just going to measure the input and output, just in case you're curious. I certainly am. I'm using it at grind size 25. Last night I made 2 coffees. I made one at, what was it, 15? 15 was way too fine. I wouldn't recommend going less than, 18. But 15 was way too fine for this machine. And then I made another one at 24, 25. Actually was pretty good, so I'll try to use 25 this morning. I'm just going to quickly purge, meaning I'm going to get rid of the grounds that were in there. Just a couple of seconds. This purge will get rid of whatever coffee that's been stuck in the chute since your last session. You don't have to purge that every time, but just for consistency, I'm going to do that. I'm not actually grinding. All done. Look, nice and flat surface. There's usually a bit of loose grounds. That's just from the nature of how the machine works. You can ignore those, or you can just flip it upside down in the bin and get rid of them. Just make sure that the edges are clean. That's where the machine makes contact with the portafilter. So the edges here, make sure those are clean. I forgot to mention, in this video, I'm using mostly your machine. The only things that I'm using for myself are I'm using my own drip tray. So this is from a different machine for this video. Yours is wrapped in plastic and dry. I want to keep it that way. So I'm using my own drip tray to keep your drip tray scratch free. I'm also using my own milk jug, very similar to yours. Using my own portafilter. So your portafilter will have two spouts coming out at the bottom. This one is bottomless, so this one will, this is my personal one, so I'm just using it to keep your portafilter nice and clean in the box. You don't want it to stain the box with coffee grounds everywhere. Right, lock that in. I forgot to measure that, but that's usually about 20 grams. Yep, about 20 grams, which is pretty good. Strong double shot. So that's a double shot in the basket. I'm also going to extract it as a double shot. Usually for espresso the ratio is a 2-to-1 ratio, meaning for every gram we grind, we want 2 grams out as liquid, in liquid form. So we put in 20, we want 40 grams out for the double shot. That goes for 30 seconds. I'm just going to add some hot water to the machine. Sorry, water, it's not hot water, just water. And what the grind size does, think of it as the speed of coffee. So if your grind size is very low, you'll get low amount of coffee. If the grind size is very large, you'll get a lot of coffee. We don't want the coffee to be only 20 grams in the cup. That will be very strong, very bitter. You may like that, that's fine, but that's not standard for espresso. And we don't want it to be over 60 grams. I mean, over 60 gram shot, you may like that as well. It's a long 3-to-1 shot ratio, but again, I'm going to avoid that in this video because I'm trying to get a 2-to-1 ratio. So 40 grams in 30 seconds. If it's quicker than, so if I get, sorry, in the 30-second shot, if I get more than 60 or more than 50, usually I would just grind a number finer, just again. If I'm getting too little coffee, so only 20 grams, I'll grind a number larger and try again. And that's my method. Hopefully you can utilize that for yourself as well. It's a bit of trial and error, but once you get to the right grind size, you can stay there forever. Well, not forever, until you change your beans or the brand of beans. But basically, yeah, that's the gist of it. You also have a hot water tap. Being a drill boiler, you can always steam and get water at the same time. But for the sake of the video and explaining things, I'm going to do them separately. I like to use the hot water tap to do long blacks. That's what it's designed for. So if you go to the long black function, it'll give you hot water and espresso in one button press. I also use it to brew tea bags, to warm up my cups, and to help the sugar dissolve if I'm adding sugar to my drink, which is what I'm doing today. If you're a fan of sweetener, sugar, or flavorings in your espresso, preferably add them before the espresso is brewed, so that when the espresso comes out into the cup, it mixes nicely with the flavors, rather than you having to disturb the milk and the espresso later on. I'm going to reset my scale again. This is ground size 25, double shot. Do double. This bottomless portafilter may make a mess. Looks good. It takes a few seconds to come out. It started pouring, I think, at the 8-second mark. So that's 23 seconds. I'm going to stop it there. Usually I don't like it to go beyond that black rubber. So I'm gonna stop and measure, and that is okay. I think I was wrong. So it gave me a lot of crema. It gave me the indication or the impression that it's a lot of coffee, but it was just crema. So that's 32 grams. So we could have probably let it go for another 3-4 seconds. So there's actually a good extraction, I would say. If you do the maths and extrapolate, we would have gotten the 40 grams in 28 seconds. Not recommended, but you can always run the coffee a little bit longer. There's another 5 seconds, and now it's about 45. So you can keep the settings at 25 and test it with your beans. This is pretty good extraction in my opinion. Anything between 35 to 45 should be okay. You probably won't notice. 30 grams, it may taste a bit too strong. 50 plus, it may taste a bit too weak. So it's a bit of a balance for you, I think, for anyone. And it's up to you really at the end, which grind size you prefer depending on the taste. So the taste is the most important. Don't focus too much about the numbers. Don't focus too much about exactly how many milliseconds it took to get the dose. It's just a guide, and at the end it's a surrogate for taste. So I'm going to get rid of that coffee ground waste, and then I'm going to brew to flush it. Just 5 seconds should do the trick. That usually is enough to clean the shower screen and the portafilter in one go. If you have some spare time, it'll be nice to grab a tissue, wipe your shower screen as well. That's even after you flush, there's a little bit of coffee ground stuck in the shower screen and in the grip seal. So wiping them, keeping your machine clean is a nice thing to do. Your portafilter, I wouldn't recommend storing it in the grip head. I mean, you can. If you lock it lightly, that's fine. So next morning when you turn on the machine, or when the machine turns on its own with the time function, the portafilter gets warmed up as part of the warm-up procedure because it's attached to the grip head. But don't lock it too hard, otherwise you might put too much pressure on that rubber seal, the rubber gasket, and it may degrade the gasket more quickly over time. It's not the end of the world if you do lock it in. Right, espresso done. Now, time for the milk. I've filled my milk jug here about halfway with cold milk. I'm going to be using the milk settings as recommended by the machine. What does it recommend? It recommends froth level of 8. Temperature of 65. I'm going to reduce that to 60, that's my preference. But I'm going to keep it at the froth level of 8. So it'll be able to test it almost at full capacity of what this frother can do in terms of the foam level. That's how I like to test these machines. You can always dial it back, but I like to test it at a quite high froth level just to test and show the customer what it's capable of. Now, you go all the way to 1, obviously that'll be flatter milk, more like a latte or flat white. Actually, at 1, I don't think it gives you any foam at all, and at 2 or 3, it will give you slightly a little amount of foam. Put it in the middle. That's pretty good. Didn't take too long at all. I'm just getting a wet towel to wipe the wand. This is very important. Always have a wet towel ready. The wand gets really hot, of course, especially the bottom part of it, and you want to wipe it off straight away. So we got nice thick foam there. Wipe the bottom as well. A lot of people wipe the sides but forget the bottom part here near the thermometer. That's also important, and it gets a lot of milk stuck onto it. And when you push it down, it should clean itself. And sure enough, it does do that. Give it one more wipe. And that's it. I'm gonna dry your machine properly and box it after this video. So I'm not gonna bother too much with cleaning. But yeah, we got a good amount of foam there actually. That's at level 8. It'll be even higher with level 9. So before I pour into the milk, I'm just gonna swirl it up to mix it up and incorporate the froth into the milk. Then I'm gonna knock it on the counter to break any air bubbles that I see. So for a cappuccino, this is pretty adequate, I would say. Let me show you the final result. It's about this much foam, about 2 centimeters, with full cream cow's milk, and that's what the coffee looks like. I'm no barista, but I think with some latte art practice, some steaming practice, you can surely do latte art better than I can. And this is on the automatic setting. You can actually use it on the manual setting as well. So if you push it down, it's on automatic. If you pull it up, you can froth like a barista and do it manually. That way you have more control over the temperature and froth level in case you needed to do that for whatever reason if you're not happy with the automatic setting. But I think it's pretty decent, as you see. And the whole machine, I'm pretty happy with it. I hope you are too. Set up at the moment, brand size 25 for a double shot. And yeah, you can always go for higher or finer, like I said, if you needed to. If you're getting a lot of coffee output at 25, maybe grind it down 1 number finer. If you're getting too little output, grind it 1 number larger and test again. 25 seems to be good for this bean. I'm using the Coles dark beans and full cream milk, so it worked pretty nicely. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate. Yeah, I'll post the machine hopefully by Monday, and you'll get to use it and enjoy it sometime next week. Thanks again, John, for your purchase. Cheers.